Merry Christmas, everybody. Just before you unwrap those Christmas gifts, you spend time with loved ones, or maybe you want to avoid spending time with loved ones, like my plans may be on Sunday. We are here live on Sportswire Radio, speaking all things related to the LWF and much, much more, of course, with one of our favorites, one of our guys, that is Wildfire Nate Reese. We have a lot to talk about from last week's show. We'll also talk about some other things related to the LWF. So let's get right to it. So with that, wait for it. Further ado, number one, Global Sports Show, pro wrestling star here from the LWF. That's Wildfire Nate Reese. My friend, how are you?
Not just the number one global radio show, number one most festive radio show this weekend. We are here. It is December 23rd. Christmas Eve is tomorrow. And then that means on Sunday, a large red man, and I don't mean Kane, the big red machine, but somebody is going to be coming down our chimney, and he is going to be coming very, very soon. Quicker than it takes for all of your LWF favourites to get a title match, but we will discuss more upon that as we explore the Fightmare before Christmas. But it is good to be back. It is good for this festive edition of the Sports Report with yourself, Tom. And one of the biggest things I've got is I've got a conundrum. Like, I have the most wondrous tag team partner in the Asset Stephen Cross, who we know loves, adores, the 12 Days of Crossmas is essentially all about him.
He actually messaged me about that during the week here. He actually had spoke about the fact that he wanted to address that in 2023 and actually come on to Sportswire Radio. But don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath.
He messaged you.
Well, we spoke on Facebook. Yeah, we spoke on Facebook. But don't hold your breath, because obviously he's not one for the camera. So don't feel too bad.
Well, he does have a face for radio, so
you'll just have to deal with the scenario. You'll just have to deal with the scenario Nathan Gunn before next LWF show. That's what you'll have to deal with.
I feel like the scenario Nathan Gunn and dealing with that is when you pull open the Christmas cracker and it doesn't really work, so then you have to just keep pulling, and then it jolts your hands. That's what it's like talking to Nathan Gunn. And then you open up, and then you still have a bad joke as well. But what do I get Stephen Cross for Christmas? That's the real question. We're running on time. But
I would think something basically weightlifting related. That would be the safe route, right?
It would, but do you ever truly remember the safe presents? Were the presents you got that were ever truly safe, the ones that you cherished on Christmas Day?
Well, can I say what I got myself, actually, which I'm anxiously waiting for? WWE
Absolutely.
Monopoly. I'm waiting for WWE Monopoly.
Fantastic. Do you have anyone to play it with? That's the key.
That might be a problem. I do have a comment for you, actually, and I actually want to give a shout out to somebody that came on a couple of weeks ago, and at the same time of the LWF show, he had just won the CCW World Heavyweight Championship. They're the Underground Heavyweight Championship, and that is our friend Hybrid. And Hybrid wants to ask, where is the LWF located, by the way? Where is the main show? I know, but he would like to know, so tell us.
You know what? Much appreciated, Hybrid. Good evening. And I appreciate that sometimes when we've been on these, sports reports and talked about this, sometimes you can feel a little bit left behind or unsure where the organization is. So the LWF is located in a cesspit known as Chorley in the UK of England.
Great way to sell it there.
Hey, you should have seen some of the comments those children threw at me on last Saturday.
Yeah.
You know what? One of them said that I was going to receive a lump of coal from Santa. And I just meekly responded that within this energy crisis, I will at least be warm and he won't be. So nobody knows Santa better than me. But in regards to the LWF, it is located in Chorley in the northwest of England. We have the training school at a place called Copple Mill near Chorley there. And then we have shows up in Buckshaw Village, which includes the ones where I was defeated by a 22-man army in the Lumberjack match, where me and Stephen Cross have competed against Synergy for the Tag Team Championships, where I hid under the ring and cut Bob Costin's hair. We've performed at Chorley Town Hall, where the mayor didn't give me a car parking space. We have competed in lots of different places around the Chorley area. And that's actually a really great question, because that leads in to the LWF's next show, where they are venturing to a new location. So it could be quite a nice moment to actually maybe discuss that, Tom, to be fair as well.
And Hybrid has a response for it, which we'll talk about the next show certainly shortly. And Hybrid wants to say, and by the way, Hybrid would be an interesting guy in the LWF because he reminds me almost in a way like the Synergy Boys, which you have experience with. And he also has a background. He was an MMA fighter who became a pro wrestler not too long ago. And he's been in there for a short time. And he's kind of, and I think I said this when we were on the air with Hybrid a couple of weeks ago, he's almost working his way up to being another Goldberg, another Ultimate Warrior, somebody that had success in the fight world and now that's going into the wrestling world. And he says, thanks for the response. We'll certainly start following you guys and try to catch up. Well, that could be interesting.
I will most certainly be looking for Hybrid, our new underground champion for CCW. And quite frankly as well, Tom, like you mentioned about wrestlers transition from MMA, Ultimate Warrior would have been amazing in MMA as a spectacle. I don't care what would have happened. That would have just been the greatest.
Yeah, I feel like Ultimate Warrior, for whatever reason, we'll come back to the LWF and some of the local wrestling in a second. I feel from all the wrestler stories that I heard, I was listening to, it was Bushwhacker Luke. He has a book out, and he was on Busted Open, and he was speaking with Bully Ray. And the Ultimate Warrior came up because they had talked about Andre the Giant, and he was sharing a story that with the Ultimate Warrior, that the Ultimate Warrior was like one of the worst wrestlers basically in the locker room, because with the fans, he was like very, very like, he didn't want to deal with them. He didn't want to take any photos. And Andre kind of worked, the famous story was one of the wrestlers that Andre the Giant worked very difficult with was the Ultimate Warrior. So I have a feeling that the Ultimate Warrior, that act, maybe at least from what I've heard behind the scenes, I don't think he would have lasted too long in an MMA, unlike, let's say, a Bobby Lashley or a Brock Lesnar for sure, most certainly. But I'm sure Hybrid can tell us some more of that. But obviously, we'll get into the next show. We'll get into your match in a second. But I wanted to talk about the news that we've seen all over social media. Obviously, you were there on the card last week, and KT Hawkins, we're no longer going to see her. For now, it looks like here in the LWF, and there was a very well-done tribute video, which you can see on the LWF's YouTube page at LWF Television, also LWF on Twitter. In fact, I actually shared the video here before we went on the air and announced that I was going live with you, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on for now, it looks like the end of KT Hawkins as we know it, and any other thoughts you wanted to share on her time in the LWF. Certainly a very interesting career that she had in the LWF. Let me put it that way.
I appreciate this time, actually, because as much as I love to express how much I disregard the Chorley fans and their repulsiveness towards me, Katie is somebody who I've seen from day one of her initial training to become a wrestler. And ultimately, Katie was somebody who was very well respected wherever she went because of the way that she conducted business.
Sure.
I believe a little Nate Reese advice did lead to Katie adopting the boss man slam. They call it the black hole slam sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen that. That was a finishing move also, yep.
That was one because she could spin me a few good times on that rotation. So and again, I always admired what Katie did in terms of wanting to become more powerlifting, wanting to gain more strength, so she could lead and create her own opportunities, which she did within the LWF. Because again, they brought her in initially, sort of pre-COVID, and she had to slap hands with some of those horrible. No wonder pandemic happened. Horrible feral creatures in Chorley. But then she chose to take opportunities and become the chairwoman of the LWF. Literally put matters into her own hands, which led her to become the absolute worst, leading Gorgon and Venick. Although they might not tell you that, they let Katie go out in front to make her own opportunities and create things within her own career. Now, last Saturday, she got to compete in a triple threat against Lana Austin and Holly Hudson. And I know that match against Lana Austin was a year in the making and building up.
We spoke about that with you and Nathan Gunn, who's sort of our third man sometimes of our LWF Power Hour on Sportswire. Yep.
And to be fair, that felt bad. To be fair to Gunn's credit, I just need it. Oh, excuse me. Oh, There's not enough strong eggnog or mulled wine in the world for that. Gunn does know Katie as well, so I'm sure he will have good things to say as well.
Yeah, no
Enough
doubt.
of that. Wow, Wolf, the season's rubbing off on me, Tom. It's quite daunting there. Katie did choose to do things her own way. She's chosen now to focus on other things. And ultimately, that's the one thing to take away from Katie Hawkins, was somebody who trained alongside all the other people, whether it's in the LWF locker room, other people who train at Odyssey and elsewhere, at the Future Shop Performance Center and at other previous places. Known her since the first time she walked into training. She was always very well respected because she jumped straight in with whoever it was, whether it could be myself.
She was a tough woman too, a very tough woman.
Very tough.
Very, very tough.
Not afraid to mix it up with Synergy, anybody.
Well, I think you mixed it up with her, and you kind of touched upon it. I mean, you mixed up with a lot of guys in that locker room. It wasn't just her mixing it up with Lana Austin or Melanie Price, the It Girl, or Kelly Van Ness, of course, she was aligned with, and Helena Reyes. I mean, a long list of women here in the LWF, and I kind of think that's why it was so important to touch upon her, because I always felt that one of the strengths that the LWF had versus other companies was the women's roster that we had. The division, I mean, the list of talent. Of course, your former bestie, Tonga, Melanie Price, the It Girl, who's recently come back. Helena Razor, of course, who you have kind of a family tie there in a way. Certainly Lana Austin, Harley Hudson, KT Hawkins. So, I mean, the roster here, I mean, was always stacked.
Very diverse profiles, very unique individuals. One of the best things with the LWF is that it likes to promote unique individuals and unique wrestlers, alongside the greatest tag team and myself and the Assets Team Cross. But with the women's division as well, it felt like that you could see new talent alongside some of the most preeminent talent in the British wrestling scene. Looking at like Lana Austin, who is doing a lot of great stuff for Progress Wrestling, for example. Yep. Or whether it's Harley Hudson, who absolutely 2023 is the one person who's going to have an absolute knockout year, along with Aurora Tevez, who we've not seen the LWF for a few months.
About her in the past. Yeah, middle of the year, we spoke about her. Yep.
Who I know has been focusing very much in terms of sort of a bodybuilding fitness standpoint, and is doing very, very well for herself alongside wrestling. And we've had Lucy Sky, who came back from quite a difficult injury to be already traveling abroad and is wrestling, competing abroad as well. So the LWF women's division has been able to fly the flag elsewhere and compete in a lot of different areas and showcase that talent. And they initially came from the LWF.
Absolutely. No, listen, and I thought that's why it was important to kind of mention KT Hawkins and start out with the top. And obviously, we wish her all the best and hope that she will have success, which we have no doubt that she'll have success in anything that she does. And obviously, she's concentrating on other things. Hopefully, you never say never in the world of professional wrestling. So hopefully one day we see KT Hawkins back. But in the meantime, we definitely want to thank her, and is obviously somebody that got a chance to cover her work. It was a true pleasure. And I think that's one of my things, Wildfire Nate Reese, and kind of one of my things I'd like to do is my New Year's resolution in 2023 is maybe speak to more women's wrestlers, especially in the LWF. We've had Helena Razor in the past, and obviously Helena was certainly a pleasure to have on, but certainly more of them we definitely like to speak with. I think I've spoke with a couple this year, but hopefully we work on that, and I'm sure we will. But obviously, I got to talk about your match, obviously, because you spoke a lot about it last week on the show. We got Nathan Gunn's thoughts on it. Of course, our third man here, our unofficial third man for our Power Hour here on the LWF Fight Man before Christmas. And, I mean, you and Shining Wizard, and tell us how it all unfolded, and how'd you guys do?
I'm sure Gunn was very eloquent in his articulate description.
It was his birthday last week, and on top of that, it's Nathan Gunn. I mean, as much as we love Nathan Gunn on Sportzwire Radio, how eloquent is he really?
This is what happened, wasn't it? He blew his wish. He blew the candles, and that wish on his birthday is what happened within this matchup.
Maybe.
Definitely. Myself and the asset Stephen Cross against Shining Wizard, Clash and 18 So we were the first. We opened up the card, and again, I was greeted with all the general warmth of Rudolph and the reindeer stood on the top of any rooftop, covered in snow, immediately by the truly faithful. They did not appreciate that I started to sing. We're Walking in the Air from the Snowman, which is, I know, is Stephen Cross's favourite Christmas song. And they didn't appreciate that. But nonetheless, we started the competition. We competed. I exchanged holds with Clash. Aiton moved into the match. We were able to, with a little help from some of my festive tinsel that I had last week, which is only for decoration.
Well, we spoke about that. We spoke quite a bit about that actually on last week's show.
So I was able to just adjust things with that tinsel so that Aiton Steve meticulously crashed to the floor off the top rope so Stephen Cross could help take advantage with one of his sublime backbreakers. So then we continued the match. We kept going and competing until Aiton Steve managed to tag in Clash. He tried to fight back. We exchanged holds, exchanged moves, and this is where things fell apart due to the LWF's incompetence with their staffing. So I was competing against Aiton Steen. Everything was clearly coming up Millhouse for me, coming up Nate Reese. So I hit the big back fist, bam. As I'm looking away, ready to tag Cross, I hear Aiton coming back. He swings that big right hook, so I managed to grab him, adjust, hit the big chest burster, code breaker, bam. That double knee sideways gut buster I'm renowned for. Just ask Costin, just ask Varga, just ask anybody. Bam.
Gunn as well this past summer as well. Yeah, Gunn as well.
Constantly. So then I see Stephen Cross in the ring. He hits his variation of the Olympic slam onto Aiton. Whilst I appreciate the help, I'm there. 1, 2, and he pulls me off. I can't believe it. Apparently Aiton wasn't the legal man. Clash had tagged. And as me and Cross were, shall we say, having some form of formal discussion about this, or whether I felt it was true or not, Aiton drop kicked into the two of us. Clash rolled me up. The referee didn't tell them. The referee didn't ask Cross to leave the ring when we were talking, having that discussion, following the rules. He didn't give a 5 count. He didn't ask Clash or Aiton to leave the rule. Aiton wasn't legal man. He didn't follow that, but then he was willing to count that roll-up pin off Clash on me, wasn't he?
So me and Aiton Steen wasn't the legal man, what was why did this happen then? Tell us.
So, as I say, I believe, looking back now at the footage that my minions have hopefully shared with me, as Aiton fell back, Clash tagged, and the referee okayed it. So Cross was trying to tell me I hit the move. He hit his other on Aiton. I went to pin him. Ready, we were going to have the most decisive victory of Crossfire's career, and it didn't work. And the referee didn't acknowledge it, didn't tell us, didn't pass on that important communique at that vital moment in time. So whilst me and Cross are having a calm, quiet, nurturing discussion about what should happen next, Clash rolled me up and Cross was drop kicked out of the ring. Shining Wizards snuck one in.
To me, it sounds like this is another. Listen, I don't get this here. Each and every time we speak, there's always something here. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it here, Wildfire Nate Reese. I really don't.
And I appreciate that you're not mad, just disappointed sometimes with these, but nobody is more disappointed and nobody's more mad than Stephen Cross at the incompetency and the buffoonery that occurs within half of these Crossfire matches, in particular with the referees or the officials or the ruling, or you can have this thing, or you can be in a triple threat Russian street fight with 17 people. Whatever keeps being added, the stipulations, it keeps changing, and they change the rules each and every time. But we're always here. And one thing that nobody can deny especially in 2022, is every single time Nate Reese has been on an LWF card, they have remembered every single moment.
They've remembered it, but there's always some hokey finish, some hokey ending here. And I just wonder here. I mean, I've said before on prior shows, is it the fix being in? Is it management? Is it just bad luck? Is it timing, coincidence? I mean, is it a cruel joke being played? I mean, is it all of it? Is it all of the above, Wildfire and Reese? I mean, I don't know anymore.
It could be all of the above, potentially, but let's face it, it's the LWF management. they've been very particular since
Well,
day one.
management's had their own issues in the past. There's no question that management
With
certainly.
myself and with Cross, they've certainly had that, and they're very, very keen to ensure that happens, doesn't it? They're very keen to keep playing on that. But we don't go away. I'm never going to go away. I'm like a cockroach within the LWF, as much as I know that they'd like to address me as that and call me that and catcall me with some of the other names coming from the mouth of babes. They're children. You should know better, Charlie. You should know better. But still, every single time, I always have a plan. And some of these things haven't gone to pot. But I got a main event match with Synergy 2 months after becoming an official team. Although Cross will never admit it, but we're a night. We're a team. We're a team. Think about everything with Costin. Where's Bob Costin now? Vanished because he couldn't deal with the anguish of me terrorizing him for so long, cutting his hair, hiding under the ring.
Yeah, where is
every
Bob
time?
Costin?
Franco, maybe he's shoveling snow somewhere. Who knows?
Well, we're not far behind here in New York. We got our first significant snow flakes. We didn't get anything on the ground, but we're not too far away from that in New York City. So stay tuned.
Well, this is it. Unfortunately, the weather outside, it's just rain here, but it has had its fair amount of snow recently. But maybe that's where Costin is. Maybe he's trying to shovel his way all the way back to management or shovel something else that isn't snow. I don't really know. He might have got lost. But he's gone. Franco Varga, I ruined his tour. I ruined his European tour. He didn't pin me. The many, many people that they continue to try and put in our way. People
I'd even argue you've outlasted Balachius. From last year, I would even make that argument if you want to go down that road.
And again, he was featured in that tag team contest not too long ago, where he had to team with myself and Stephen Cross and Aura Tevez.
Yep. We spoke about that in the late summer. We spoke about that. Yep.
So he had to modify his behavior because of us to work with us, to team with us. So everything that happens, we're always the constant, the center point, the eye of the storm that is the LWF. And I think that's quite a fair comparison because there is some shenanigans and wacky buffoonery that happens within the LWF sometimes. You only have to look at some of its newer roster members like Moonbear, for example.
I did see Moonbear show up. Yes, I have seen Moonbear become one of our newer members of the locker room here. Yes.
And then, of course, there is that walking travesty and antisocial behavior order that is Mr. B. Wherever he is, wherever he goes right now. Like he could be outside at Times Square right now.
We even saw Mr. B without the mask for the first time. I mean, we saw, who would have guessed that? I mean, we even saw that was posted out. That has been the talk of the social media world in the LWF. I mean, everybody's talking about that we saw the boys there without their mask, the Los Lankadors. I mean, who would have guessed that one?
No, it was not real prosthetics. That's not his real face. We've all seen Scooby-Doo. There'll be another one.
The real mask was the mask. The real face was on, not off, basically, is what you're trying to tell us.
Some might say that. Some might say it's more of an artistic expression. Some might say it's probably court-mandated punishment that he needs to continue to wear that mask. I'm not really sure, but he took it off. What did he take it off for? What was he expecting? People to applaud? People to cherish those dulcet looks? Those... who knows? Well, let's face it. There's probably another mask over there, Mission Impossible style. Who knows? Who knows with Mr. B? You know, we have many great magicians in England. There's a whole culture and heritage, like Dynamo, for example. It might just be somebody else.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of magicians, for whatever reason, earlier this morning, I guess you might say, would probably be just about work time here in the UK. And why am I looking at this? But I actually saw and I thought about purchasing a David Blaine deck of playing cards, Bicycle, which makes the playing cards. They actually have now a David Blaine deck of cards. So maybe a Mr. B deck of playing cards is not too far behind from what you're saying here in the LWF, because obviously David Blaine, the legendary magician, and you're saying Mr. B is a magician also. So that would mean, as I pointed out, we're not too far away from maybe a mysterious Mr. B deck of playing cards.
So now you've given him licensing and merchandising opportunities. Look what you've done.
He's
They'll
been with
probably
us
come
on
out.
Sportswire Radio, though, I think about 3 times. So we've had him on here. There's no question that we've given him exposure.
But then when you order the pack, like I know for a fact that when you'll get it, they'll all be like the 7 of diamonds, the entire deck. Knowing Mr. B, you can't just play things straight. It's going to be something else, isn't it?
Well, we'll
Unless it's the
certainly
dirty
find
pig
out.
card as well.
Well,
Oh,
we'll find out. I mean, they certainly listen. The Los Lankadors are certainly wild cards. Whether it's the mysterious Mr. B or the Mass Marauder or Disrosada, I mean, that's what they are, and certainly they have given the Wrecking Crew their fits. But we are here with Wildfire Nate Reese, speaking all things related here to the LWF and his match that took place at the last show. It was the team of Crossfire against Shining Wizard, and the guys, unfortunately, were on the short end of the stick. But I have no doubt that the guys will bounce back because we have another show, of course, not too far away from here, coming up on January the 28th at the Super Hesketh show here at the All Saints Church Hall and in Hesketh and Hesketh Bank. And the doors are going to open at 5:30. First bell 6 o'clock. Tickets are only $8 online for adults, $5 for children, and £20 gets you a family ticket. So make sure you go out there and buy your ticket online. You can go to the LWF Wrestling for more information. Tickets at the door are $10, £10 for adults, £7 for a child, and £26 only for a family ticket. And think about this here, ladies and gentlemen. Where are you going to go and to watch a quality wrestling show that Wildfire Nate Reese and the Asset Stephen Cross, we know we're going to be on, coming up here on the 28th of January for your family for only £20 online or £26 at the door? I mean, you can't even go out for a meal. You can't even go out and watch a football game here. And so make sure you go out and support the LWF. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and alongside me is pro wrestling star Wildfire Nate Reese, who you can follow on Twitter at Nate_Reese_wrestling. Also, Nate Reese Wrestling on Facebook. And I have a comment for you. Speaking
okay.
of an individual that we spoke about a few minutes
Here
ago,
we
this
go.
individual says, "Give me my hair back." I think we know who we might be referencing here. That is, of course, somebody that was with us last year, your former tag team partner, and a man that you certainly have quite a history with. I would imagine this individual would be related to or knows a one Bob Costin.
I don't know. He's the sort to get catfished, isn't he? That's just a picture there. That could be anybody. Give me my hair back. How classy. How classy.
He's
But
got
just
hair on
so
his head right now, though. He's got the hair. He's got the hair.
But I think he was looking for those long blonde strokes that, I was able to shave off at the town hall.
Yes,
back
you were
at
very
Farmaganda.
successful at that, yes. And he
Yeah,
also says, you spoke about me a minute ago. Yeah, we did. And we spoke about the fact that you haven't been seen much in the LWF since Wildfire Nate Reese got his hands on you and several months back. And where have you been? How you doing there?
Don't set him up, Tom. This is what you do every time. You spur these maniacs on. I'm like caramel to them. I attract them like a magnet. But as you can see, again, who's the center point? Who's the constant of the LWF? Right back at it again. So, yeah, we did speak about you. We're speaking about some of the highlights of 2022 from the LWF perspective. We've had championship clashes. We've had unique match stipulations. But let's face it, the greatest moment in the big countdown of the entire year has to have been not Reynaldo's comeback trail, not Synergy's dominance as tag team champions, but myself and Tonga, both looking fabulous, got to shave your hair. Oh, well, if you are Bob Costin, obviously.
Well,
if you're an imposter, shame on you.
Well, he does have a comment. He does have a comment. He says, since Getsky beat me for the title, but okay, I think you'll find that I bested Nate, meaning you. He'll say he holds a victory over you as his counter.
Well, he can't even finish a sentence grammatically correct, so we're not too worried about
it. I will say some people come on Sportswire, and I think they what they mean is something different, but usually what they'll comment is, it happens. Listen, I mean, we have people come on all the time, and this is what happens, so.
And usually when they make statements like this, they expect some form of government to pay them some form of money. So
Well,
let's not
I'm
worry
not
too
going to get
much
in the
about
middle of
this.
that. We're not going to pay.
No. We're feeling festive. It's Christmas. Let's keep things moving.
We'll certainly try it. And I have wondered, by the way, since I know that that Mr. Costin was always a fan of when I say the number one. And I have to ask, I mean, where have you been hiding on Sportswire Radio, Mr. Costin? I mean, we had you on one time, but we haven't had you on since. I mean, I think those and the rest of the locker room need to come back to Sportswire. It's been you, it's been Nathan Gunn. We've seen obviously the Los Lancadores have come on, the Wrecking Crew have been on from time to time, and certainly we would hope that see more of those in the locker room in the future. And he also says, I don't have grammar. I'm out here having the time of my life, swinging by to remind you I lost $5.99. I don't need the Reverend.
Somebody is very much appreciative of this festive season.
Well, Merry Christmas
Merry
to Bob.
Christmas, Mr. Costin.
Merry Christmas to Bob Costin as well. And he says the number 2 and number 3, Nate and Sports Report. I don't know what number 2 and number 3 reports, but this is the first time I'm speaking about Bob Costin in months, so I kind of forgot where was Bob Costin.
Clearly, we're talking about frankincense and myrrh because we are a part of the Three Wise Men alongside with the asset Stephen Cross.
Well, Nathan Gunn in a way has kind of replaced Stephen Cross, Bob Costin, because Stephen Cross doesn't really do the camera thing, so it's almost kind of been unofficially Nathan Gunn has been our third man to the booth because Nathan joins us usually about once a month. And he says, no, you have to say it like you announce it. The number 2 and number 3. No, we are the number 1 global sports show, and we are the number 1 global radio station. But in all seriousness, yes, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. I hope that you and your family have a Merry Christmas. I hope that you have a Happy New Year. I hope that you find joy and happiness in whatever you're doing right now. And I hope that you do want to come back onto Sportswire Radio and speak about what's on your mind. And maybe we will see you in the LWF coming up at the next show or a Monday Night Mutiny, and we'll see what the future brings for you. So I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas. I am a reverend, so I can certainly wish you some good wishes and hope that we see you soon there, my friend. So go enjoy yourself there. So that's what was Bob Costin there, of course, your old tag team partner who wanted to get in a few words there for you.
Yeah.
And he also asked me, actually, one more question. Is Sportswire PG, or can we get an After Dark episode? I mean, we can't curse because we're actually on a radio dial online, which is at sportnarium.com/player. So I can't really endorse profanity, even though there have been a few wrestlers that I have to do a button to kind of. Rick Marcus is one of the more famous ones. We had a guy on that is a champion as a backyard wrestler here in the United States, Craven Rage, who said it a few times. But no, we really can't curse. But then you won't get an interview. Well, then, we don't want an interview because we have people that listen and there are different people out there. So then in that case, we don't want you either because we are a family station and we do have a lot of supporters out there, which I want to mention. Over 500 plus of them now follow the Sportswire Radio Facebook page at Sportswire Radio. We also broke 100 subscribers on YouTube. So there are people out there that listen, and it's something that we don't endorse. But if you'd like to come on for a few minutes, the floor is always open to you, Bob Costin. But if you want to do like almost like a Dark Side of the Ring Vice type of special, I can do that, but I can't curse. So good luck to you then on your future endeavors. Maybe you can go find Chris Lappin and Adam Barker. Maybe they can be lapdogs for you, and maybe they'll let you curse and say what you want. But Wildfire and Reese, I did want to speak about things here that I was disappointed of, and that was the fact that Davey Getsky, I still see, is our reigning defending LWF champion. I know you have mixed feelings on that, and I was certainly disappointed to see that our former top of the table, of course, my very dear friend, Mr. Reynaldo, the 11th, 12th, and 13th man, didn't help him there. And unfortunately, he was kind of our Harry Kane last week there at the Buckshaw Village Community Center.
I was just about to say, I think some of the all-team spirit from the previous weekend must have rubbed off on him. You know, following England's form in the World Cup, it was not Reynaldo's night. just like I mentioned, I did pick Getski to win.
You did.
Getski was victorious. He's still the LWF champion now going into 2023, potentially looking like he could cement his legacy there as the new LWF champion and the champion to beat. So ultimately now we look at some of the title defenses he's had, potential contenders coming up. He did beat Gunn. A lot of people keep mentioning Aton Steen. He did beat Aton Steen at the TNT special near Halloween. There's lots of different potential contenders coming up. So who knows what happens? 2023 is basically anybody's year to take within the LWF. There could be returning roster members. There could be people currently in hiding, like Bob's there on the witness protection program somewhere. It could be anybody right now who could potentially become the next championship challenger.
Well, we'll certainly find out, and obviously we'll see where Reynaldo goes from here as well. And Davey Getski, will give him credit. He has certainly had an impressive run as the LWF champion here these past several months, and he has defeated some very, very impressive opponents, and the Wrecking Crew has been very, very impressive, as they always have been. So I have no doubt that Davey Getski will continue his success. And I always make the running joke that it's the twins right now are champions. Of course, Jack Johnson is the champion over in Bolton Town Wrestling, and he was the former GT Ministries champion, and Davey Getski is the LWF champion. So I think I kind of right now partially am a little bit more of a Jack Johnson fan these days, just because Johnson, when he's been on Sportswire, has been a little bit more festive for us, although I think he was a little upset with me on one of the streams where I had Disciple on, and I was going on about Disciple on something, and I forget what it was, but that's here nor there. But certainly I am sure that we'll see much more of Mr. Getski on Sportswire in 23, and we'll see Mr. Johnson as well. And Casey Jack Bradley, a young trainee, says Merry Christmas. So you be well, Casey. I thank you for all of your support, and we'll have more coverage for you coming up here over the next few days on Sportswire Radio. We'll have on Joel Cobra. Joel Cobra, of course, we've seen in GT Ministries, seen him in Bolton Town Wrestling, and he is now the newest member of the CCW rosters. The modern day Mafia certainly put a beating to the hands of the working class militia who have been here on Sportswire Radio. He'll be here Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. We will also have on coming up tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, which will be evening Eastern time, Christmas Day, UK time in the morning. C2K, Courage to Kill, backyard wrestling legend here in upstate New York, and he's got a lot to say about RWA and much, much more. And we'll talk to him tomorrow night. We'll also have on Thursday as our last wrestling interview. We'll have on the Irish Wonder Chris Murphy, multiple belt champion, and we'll see what Nate Reese is doing Friday as well on the air. Plus, we'll also have on wrestling star from Wrestling Warzone Tuesday night again. We'll have on George Diaz, so I'm looking forward to speaking with George. I want to thank Darrow Johnson from Wrestling Warzone for setting up. This guy's supposed to have come on at least 2 or 3 different times. Either I was sick, he was sick, and now we're going to finally make it happen. So all great stuff. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and Mr. Costin, I guess, wants to wish us Merry Christmas one more time. So when it becomes enough on Merry Christmas, I got the point. So I do thank you for your support. But I want to ask you, this show coming up January the 28th, well, we have a few more minutes here with you. This is something different here. This is kind of a big deal that we're kind of branching out. We're used to seeing everybody at the Buckshot Village Community Center. I know we've done the Town Hall Fightmare before Christmas last year, but talk about how big of a deal this is and what we can expect. We kind of promoted it a little bit in terms of ticket prices and everything else, but January the 28th, the Super Show coming up, and talk to me about your thoughts on this.
So January the 28th, which I can imagine is probably a very prominent wrestling weekend anyway on the wrestling calendar.
Rumble. Yep.
That's the one. So again, always a very, great lead into a great year of wrestling. It's that lead into WrestleMania time. So it's a great time to be a wrestling fan anyway. So I think this is the time for the LWF to strike the fire whilst it's hot. And if anybody knows about fire, I guess it's me. But ultimately, with what will happen is that it's a time to branch out. LWF has been very good in maintaining and establishing its audience at Bookshaw, within the Chorley area. So the opportunity to go elsewhere, perform elsewhere, rile up a whole new set of morons, idiots, and Morlocks. I cannot wait to do that and express my gratitude to them within a brand new year with Stephen Cross, of course. who's always verbose and very articulate, and will no doubt express his consideration and appreciation for them in his own unique manner. But it is a time for the LWF to establish itself and to grow. One of the biggest things about the UK wrestling scene has been a lot of great promotions have developed within the last 3 to 5 years. Even
Absolutely.
before or after COVID, there was still lots starting to grow and starting to rise. You only have to look at places like TNT Ignition. You've got TWA. Progress Wrestling is a huge mainstay.
We do a lot of work with TWA in terms of some of our LWF stars. We see a lot of crossover in TWA. Bolton Town Wrestling as well, which is basically like
Wrestle
LWF
Island.
South.
There's all sorts of talent being shared all over the place. There's Future Shock Wrestling, of course. As I mentioned before, Wrestle Island. So they are continuing to grow. And I believe if LWF can establish its mainstay as a real hotspot for up-and-coming talent and other talent creating the legacy like myself and Stephen Cross, like Synergy, cementing their tag team run, like a Reynaldo, like a Davey Getsky. We mentioned some of the great women like Katie, who's currently isn't wrestling at the moment, but who knows what could happen. We've got Lana Austin, we've got Holly
Melanie
Hudson.
Price is back, the it girl, Melanie Price, one of my favorites.
She's back on the scene, all ready to do with it, ready to hit the ring again. So lots of interesting things, lots of opportunities. The academy itself is now starting to initiate a kids class.
I saw that. I did see that we are going to see future Wildfire Nate Reese's, future Asset Stephen Cross's, future Reynaldo's, future Nathan Guns and Conrad Blazes. So yeah, that's a big deal.
Held by another local Blackpool boy who's not far from me, Rossi Rascal.
Yes,
who again,
know him very well.
Making an excellent name for himself in places like PCW. He's a fellow martial artist like myself. I've never actually met him, which is something that in 2023 I want to do.
You've never met him?
Yeah. Never met him.
Okay.
We've got a lot of common links, a lot of common acquaintances, friends. That's something that I would like to do.
Blackpool guys, whether it's you, RPD, Rossi Rascal, you guys all would have like ran into each other at like a local pub or something.
I do like to frequent the pubs, but we'll have to see. RPD, obviously, we've known each other for a very, very long time.
And he's now the TNT Ignition champion, by the way.
Exactly. And look at what an established year he's had within TNT alone, let alone anywhere else that he's chosen to wrestle and being part of their roster. And he's somebody who was going to take that brand and really build it up as he goes along. I think he's going to continue to develop in ring. He's had exceptional matches against the likes of Lance Rivera, Sonna Durst in particular for TNT. Those have got to be anybody's highlight.
How about Anthony Agogo earlier this year? Remember that match?
Absolutely. So he's had an incredible year there. So the more that LWF can establish itself in new venues, new locations, get the word out, whether it's from the ground up through the academy, whether it's through the children's classes, if there are any children that look like the Asset Stephen Cross, they need to be tested for medical science because they are a freak of nature. If there are any that look like the scenario Nathan Gunn, they should probably still remain locked at home.
Oh, that's the complete opposite of the Asset Stephen Cross. I mean, as much as I love Nathan Gunn, he's the complete opposite of the Asset Stephen Cross. I mean, there are very few children that I would probably say could look like, let's say, an Asset Stephen Cross. I mean, the only child I could see that maybe would have came to mind was a Randy Orton, because I was listening to must have been a podcast weeks back, and they said Randy Orton basically the first time like he was in the ring, it was like, okay, yep, we know he's a natural, yep, he's good, but that's obviously because he's like 17th generation. But yeah, the LWF Academy, you got to make sure you get out there and support the LWF for all the great things it does. Of course, LWF on Twitter, the LWF Wrestling on Instagram. Also, please support them on YouTube, LWF Television, LWF on Facebook as well, and over 2,000 followers on Facebook, and almost, I think it's like 600 or 700 subscribers on YouTube, and Twitter has over 1,000 followers, Instagram, thousands of followers. Support the company. We always like to support our friends. Also want to give a few more comments in here. We'll have a few more minutes. Again, Costin wishes us Merry Christmas for the third time. I guess he loves saying Merry Christmas. For you, Bob Costin, Merry Christmas! He says, I gave Nate more stars, is what I meant to say. Did he give you more stars? I don't know what the reference is there for that. Anthony Finkel, My very good friend, of course, from DPH Property Service Maintenance. And I'm forgetting this because he started a new business with one of his friends who I've gotten to know over the past several months. And I forget, it's an ATM business here in New York City. He's going to have to give me the name of the business again. And I'll plug it when I'm on the air next. So he's become a big wrestling fan. He always says I'm working. Yeah, well, I mean, why not, right? What else am I going to do?
Brand
But
never stopped.
that's it. Listen, the grind never stops, and people like to hear some of these things, and surprised on some of the different comments here. But I mean, I have to ask the burning question here before I get to closing thoughts. I mean, what is on the Christmas wish list for Wildfire and Nate Reese?
Well, now, what could I possibly ask Santa for Christmas this year? And you know what? I thought about it, and I thought, I'd like a jetpack, I'd like a grappling hook. I figured I wanted one of the Beverly Brothers purple capes.
But oh, wow. That's going way back.
I ultimately, one of those Christmas presents that I always wanted as a child, but I think Santa may have thought better was for myself and my brother to have the Legion of Doom the shoulder pads. But I think two young boys with very sharp, spiky objects, maybe Santa realized
that would have been a little awkward, yeah.
I needed my eyes to continue to wrestle to this day and age, so thanks, Santa, I think. But you know what, Tom? I realized after all this, in this season of Yuletide and giving and appreciating things, I got everything I ever wanted 4 months early. It's myself and Stephen Cross have become the greatest tag team. The asset, we are the team of Crossfire, so I would like tag team gold, but I'm not going to ask Santa for that because he's thoroughly very, 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 very busy re-establishing other things. But I've got exactly what I wanted for Christmas. I do not need anything else. But ultimately, I still do need to maybe get some form of gift from my tag team partner. So we will see what I can get at a discount store tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe one of those black hats with bar humbug on. Maybe a gronk, as they call it. I don't know. That feels maybe more suited to him. Maybe I could get him a fine real ale. Who knows? But I don't need anything else. The LWF fans, I don't need them. I've got the best tag team partner that I could ever have, who truly appreciates me and wants to team with me on every single occasion. Tag team gold must be within our future in 2023. So that's all I ever needed. Cross, all I want for Christmas is you, and that's what I already got. So I do not need anything else. Though, Santa, if you want to bring one of those capes, that's still kind of cool.
Well, I guess for whatever reason, Mr. Constant, who we thought was going to leave, but he's enjoying the segment. So hopefully that must mean he might want to come back to Sportswire because he's still with us. He says, get Stephen Cross some carbs. Yeah, I mean, Stephen Cross, I will have to agree with Mr. Constant on this one. I think I always say this is the running joke. It's him and Rick Marcus. If I put him and Rick Marcus, the Cumbrian Outlaw, together, I still don't think I get body fat. I literally don't think if I put Rick Marcus and Stephen Cross together, I still don't get body fat. So, I mean, that's kind of the running joke here. So that was a good one there for you, Mr. Costin. So that was definitely a good one. So we'll see here. And I want to then give you the floor then, Wildfire and Reese. We spoke a lot tonight. We spoke a lot about, obviously, KT Hawkins' career. We spoke about Bob Costin again for, I think, the most anybody spoke about him in months. We spoke about Nathan Gunn and his kind of intelligence, or maybe not as much intelligence. We spoke about your match last week. We spoke about Reynaldo, unfortunately, coming up short yet again. Certainly the show coming up on January the 28th, the Super Hesketh show for the first time, really, the LWF branching out. Very, very excited about that. We spoke about Mr. B and maybe a deck of playing cards and Mr. B getting his own deck of cards. Maybe that's the Christmas gift that I might want, but be that as it may, my friend, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say for us, and I can't thank you enough, and the floor is yours, and fire away.
Thanks, Tom. It's always great to be back on the Sports Report. We've had a numerous array of shows all throughout the year. It's always good to come back and talk, whether it's about the LWF, whether it's been about Odyssey Pro Wrestling, whether it's about anywhere else that I've been able to train or be a part of. If you are going to get those Mr. B playing cards, maybe keep the receipt in case you need to take them back. Or maybe it's one of those gifts that you have to pass along. I don't know.
Way!
It could very well make that noise when you open the deck. I'm just forewarning you with that. 2022, not just within the LWF, but within pro wrestling, has been just the most insane year when you really count down. And that's maybe something we have to do before the new year, is maybe discuss
Friday show.
Happened.
Friday I will do a show with you. If you want to talk about things outside of the LWF, there's a lot to talk about in the wrestling world. I mean, we can definitely do that.
I think to even remotely just look back upon 2022 and charter what's happened within wrestling.
Oh, I mean, how about the last couple of weeks? The news that has shocked the wrestling world with Mandy Rose. I mean, I did a Friday sports show, and I actually spent 10 minutes on it, and I had common people out of the woodwork want to talk and hear about Mandy Rose. So next Friday it is. We'll talk about some of the stuff that it's went on in the wrestling world, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, the empire, as it's always been sort of known in people's heads since the early 80s, has completely changed now. The infrastructure has completely changed within the most prominent wrestling promotion in the world. Yep. As a global brand, it's changed. And ultimately, whilst looking over to its direct competition, seeing what's happened there and how some of its greatest asset is ultimately cycled out within a year of what people are expecting. It's been an absolute insane calendar year. That's not even including anything else abroad, domestic over here, within Japan. Again, coming up to June, it's always a new super show for New Japan as well. So lots and lots of different great wrestling already to start off. So I'd gladly have a look through some of the most prominent.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, I was watching. I got back into Impact Wrestling, and I can't believe I saw this on my screen yesterday. Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray. Basically, Bully Ray was hitting Tommy Dreamer. Has got to be 51 or 52 years old. He was hitting him. He had a ladder on top of him, and Bully Ray was hitting him with a chair repeatedly. I mean, the wrestling world is just completely going bonkers right now. I think this is one of the most interesting and intriguing times in the wrestling world, and as long as I can remember, outside, of course, our beloved UK wrestling scene. So, yeah, Friday, we will definitely spend a lot of top time on that and topics for sure galore. Even on my Friday shows, I go for my American sports show. I get wrestling. People want to talk wrestling a few minutes. So, yeah, no, we'll definitely, that it is, my friend. And certainly everybody can follow Wildfire Nate Reese, Nate_Reese Wrestling on Instagram. It is Nate_Reese_ Wrestling on Instagram, Nate Reese Wrestling on Facebook, and the LWF Wrestling on Instagram, LWF on Twitter, LWF Television on YouTube, and Facebook as well for all your LWF content. I want to thank the company for all of their support and opportunities for us to speak with the different talent like Wildfire Nate Reese, like Nathan Gunn, like the Mass Marauder, and Mr. B, and Bob Costin, who's been on, Stephen Cross when he was on in the past, and the Wrecking Crew, Reynaldo. It's a long list of people, Helena Razor, and I'm sure we'll do much more in 23. So listen, Merry Christmas. Hopefully we get the gifts that you want, and I might have to actually show you on the video next Friday, WWE Monopoly. That's the most exciting thing I think all year. I can't wait. Even if I don't play it, just to be like, hey, look what I've got. And certainly that's the gift I'm looking for most. But my friend, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you next week one more time before the year is out.
Merry Christmas, Tom. I'm going to spend the rest of this evening thinking about all the different stops on the Monopoly board and how they might link to WWE.
That was actually the reason why that's why I bought it. I was actually thinking the same thing. So I was like, well, I've got to have this. I'm like, somebody's going to say, what are you doing having a WWE Monopoly? I'm telling you, this is going to be something. It's going to be on the bucket list. I can't wait to show it. But obviously, my friend, I can't thank you enough. And certainly, if you are on Sportswire Radio, I will be back on tonight, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with the Sportswire Radio gang. We will talk for a few minutes on WWE. We'll go into our American football certainly after that. And also, I'll be back with a litany of wrestling shows. So I'm not off next week on Sportswire Radio. That is kind of why the downfall of being sick is you got to catch up on everybody else. But I'll look forward to that tomorrow night, C2K, Courage to Kill. Monday, I'm with Prince Charles of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Tuesday, I'm with Joel Cobra of the Modern Day Mafia. A lot going on with Joel Cobra. George Diaz of Wrestling Warzone. Chris Murphy, the Irish Wonder from Nonstop Action Wrestling and several other companies. And our last show of the year when it comes to wrestling coverage is with you, Wildfire, and Nate Reese. And I think Randy Dillon next week will do some general wrestling as well. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the man behind Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio anytime, listen to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on sportnarium.com/player. Also follow us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And thank you. Merry Christmas. Be safe. Be well to anybody who is out there. Be safe on the roads. And we'll speak with you soon on the number one global radio station with pro wrestling star Wildfire Nate Reese.